But you see my point here? You only hear of a hen, a rooster, and a chicken. Something's missing.
Something's missing, all right.
Yeah.
I would just have to say, like, seriously though, what a great loss of a great comedic actor. So glad he was in that role. And you know, unfortunately, the next Seinfeld reunion is going to be less without him. So
Beautiful. Well said. Well
we'll
said.
miss you, Frank.
See ya, Frank. Welcome to the Thunk Tank. Come in the tank. We're thinking, and we're drinking,
And we're thunked.
and we're thunked.
Oh my God, I'm probably more beer than man if we go far enough back at this point.
All right, Thunk Tank is in the tank. Start us off, Johnny.
Jerry, it's Frank Costanza. Mr. Steinbrenner's here. George is dead. Call me back.
All right, so should we give our standard Seinfeld episode warning at the top? Well, that's one kind of warning. I meant more like if you don't know what that line was, turn us off right now.
Or if you want to learn more
What are the
about
odds that you
Seinfeld,
clicked on Frank
keep
Costanza tribute episode and you don't know what's going on?
That's a fair point.
So welcome.
So
Welcome. We're
everyone.
all a little bit somber this week because
Maybe that's why I feel off, because we're doing the Frank Costanza tribute episode, because I felt off all day.
now
Could
something
be.
to keep in mind. This is not a Jerry Stiller in memoriam kind of thing. This is for a fictional character.
We did lose Jerry Stiller, so that means we did also lose the fictional character Frank Costanza. But like he was such a great comedic actor, we really only have the resources to focus on one role of his, and do it any amount of justice. So
I mean, if you donate
why
on
we're
Patreon,
just-
maybe we can have more resources to cover actors and their characters. But for now, just
Well,
the
do you know what would be
characters.
really fun to talk about at some point? Have you guys seen him? I mean, speaking of Jerry Stiller, have you guys? Because I didn't realize this until maybe last year, and I was just drunk on YouTube, and I found clips of Jerry Stiller on, I think it's The King of Queens.
Oh yeah, he's the father.
He's
there
the
too,
father.
yeah.
He's
And
amazing.
I was blown away because I realized, oh my God, there's more Frank Costanza to be had.
It's
out.
like a different flavor of Frank
it's a
Costanza.
very different flavor, but he has that same energy, that same
yeah,
sort of power behind his performances.
and that same like I wouldn't want to see that grandpa with his shirt off kind of vibe.
Oh, big time. Yeah. So that would
I
be
mean,
interesting. Yeah.
So I think part of why we all agree he is one of the best, I guess you could call him a side character, but really one of the main characters of Seinfeld.
He's a main secondary character.
There you go.
Yeah.
And part of that is because we all grew up in like the New York metro area, so we all know that guy. Like my own father is quite similar to him in certain ways. The way he'll just start yelling, not at anybody or angrily, just yelling their opinion loudly to the room.
Yeah.
Like that's
It's a very Long Island Queens
Yes.
thing, yeah.
And I kind of wonder if people from other places think this is like an unrealistic character because it's so realistic. I've met that person, like retail jobs when I was younger. I definitely served some Frank Costanza types for sure.
But you know, that's not originally what the character was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be the total opposite.
It was supposed to be a bald, kind of quiet, soft-spoken person who Estelle like dominates pretty much. And I saw in a backstage interview or whatever, Jerry Stiller said, "I'm going to get fired from this job just like the last guy." Which, by the way, there was a previous Frank Costanza.
I remember seeing I think there's one episode with him, right?
At least one.
There's a
hand-
different Morty.
the
There's a
handicap
different Morty
spot.
Seinfeld
Yeah.
too.
The
But they
handicap,
never
right?
edited
Spot.
out the different Morty. They went back and reshot scenes between George and Frank
Yeah.
to put in Jerry Stiller as opposed to this other guy, John
He's
something.
so good.
Well, yeah, I think it's that, but also just like it became such an epic character that, like with Morty Seinfeld, we see the different Morty in the beginning. We're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
But that was also much earlier, the early Morty. I think that goes
Yeah.
back to season 1 or 2.
yeah. Whereas Jerry first came in. I mean, like,
I don't think George's
Frank.
parents were around till season 4, maybe.
yeah, I think it was like the handicap spot, right?
Probably around then, yeah.
So, anyways, Jerry Stiller said that in like one of the last rehearsals before they were filming, when she yelled like "George likes his bananas," and he just decided to yell back at her. Larry David stopped everything and was like, "That was amazing. That's your character now." I have that scene actually. Let me just play.
I mean, it makes sense.
Scene, yeah.
Larry David has admitted he wasn't some like Aaron Sorkin kind of person. Like the page is the page. Like he was making it up as they went. Like the first few seasons, they really. How did they buy this idea? Like they're gonna find out we don't know what we're doing and cancel us. Like,
well, that's the beauty of Seinfeld and really Larry David too. And you see it carried over to Curb, where he goes with what works, and he's kind of it kind of reminds me of genius on the scale of somebody like an Elon Musk, where he says if something's not working, we abandon it. We're not like NASA, where we'll just keep pouring billions of dollars into a failed project. If it doesn't work, or we stumble upon something that works better, go with it.
Yeah,
that's it now.
Yeah,
don't be afraid to completely change directions.
Yeah.
Like at
if
the
it's
last
a good
rehearsal.
direction. Yeah.
So here's the scene that he was talking about. I called it bananas on the side. And it's playing. I'm getting the Mac wheel of death.
I don't hear anything.
That's good. 'Cause
By the way, we should take this moment to say we don't own any of this audio. We're using it under fair use.
We're under
commentary and satire.
We're in no shape to own intellectual property.
Right. But I think this is fairly safely covered under.
As we are neither intellectuals nor do we own property.
Well,
yeah,
that's true.
Okay, well, I guess I'll play my
Here we
clip
go.
Then. So okay.
Why'd you put the bananas in there?
George likes the bananas.
So let him have bananas on the side!
All right, please. Archie, would you like some Jell-O?
Why'd you put the bananas in there?
now it's just playing again. I understand.
George likes the bananas.
Jesus.
It's still great. All right. The power of escalation right there.
Well, so it's like they were the context of that scene. It's the episode where George is the hand model, and
Yes.
George is just calmly trying to like manicure his hands, and the vibe is actually quite calm. They're just sitting there, and she's like, "Oh, by the way, I made Jell-O," and it escalates from like, "I put bananas in it because I know it's your favorite," and then Frank just kind of his ears perk up. It's just like, "Why'd you put bananas in there?" She's
But
like,
there's
George
always-
likes bananas.
There's always kind of a low broil going on. Even the way she's also a fantastic actress, because the way she sort of delivers that line, even there's almost a tenuousness to her voice where she knows this is going to escalate.
They're
and it's going to explode.
always expecting a fight, right?
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah, because it's not the bananas; they're just angry people. Like
Yeah.
they're
Right.
just ready to flare up at anything.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
remember how angry Frank gets about his TV guide collection? Because one issue.
Well,
gets
that's
damaged.
understandable.
Your
He's devoted
father-
Into
years.
someone's house. She gets Elaine Bennis gets banned from the household. Like arguably one of George's few friends, let alone long-term friends that they've ever met, and she's banned because she took an old TV guide.
Yeah, but
It
in
wasn't
his
old. It was
defense,
Al Roker.
in his defense, like he spent years collecting those.
Your father collects TV guide.
It's a pathetic thing to collect, but Elaine did just.
But what
take it.
isn't a pathetic thing to collect? Isn't that also what it's making fun of?
Something valuable?
Yeah,
At least
Value is
at-
where you see it.
yeah. No one's paying for stamps.
So it's
Maybe.
the idea of like they call it life on simmer. Like if you're always stressed, you're in traffic
Yeah.
in the city, and like someone cuts you off, you're like
Oh.
you're just ready
I like
to go.
I like to call that white knuckle in it because I do that a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. they're white knuckling their entire relationship.
Yes, their
Estelle
whole
and
lives.
Frank.
Their whole lives. Yeah.
But I think what you were saying earlier, Johnny, about how whether or not people buy it in terms of people, because if you grew up around New York people, you're
Right.
absolutely right. You see this and it's just textbook. I've seen this a million other times, right? But
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people in a lot of other places, they see sort of flares of this where, oh yeah, my parents once in a while act like this. They act crazy like this, right? So this is just kind of the full throttle version of that. And anybody from New York sees this and says, oh, that's hilarious. I can absolutely identify with that. And I think other people maybe see it and they're like, oh man, that must be crazy to have that be the epitome of what that life would actually be like if that was what my parents were like all the time. And that's humorous, right?
And maybe that explains George.
Oh, it absolutely explains George.
Here's one of the other scenes I had. They were sitting in the restaurant, and George wants to ask them about his childhood.
That's always can't miss.
Could help me to remember my childhood a little more clearly.
I feel a draft. Let's change tables.
Get out of here. We have a booth.
Frank, I'm cold.
Order a hot dish.
Why can't we sit over there?
That's not a booth.
So who says we have to sit in a booth?
I didn't take the subway all the way to New York to sit at a table like that.
They're in public too.
To be in a drafty restaurant.
Now, George, what do you want to know about your childhood?
Actually, I think I'm pretty clear on it. Could help me.
That's a great scene. That's just so well written, perfectly acted.
They're just sitting there looking at a menu, and all of the sudden, like the world is filled with things
tone-
that can trigger you, but
Yeah.
you don't have to get triggered.
Yeah, you don't have to let them set you off.
Frank's dismissive tone of "I'll just order a hot dish," like he's done with it. Like that's such a "we've been married too long" couple response. You know, like, oh, you're cold, eat something hot then. Like I'm done putting any.
But he's
mental
got a good
energy
argument. We
into
got
your
the booth.
problem.
We got the booth.
We got.
But
the
who
booth.
said you need a booth?
Booths are way more comfortable. I'm with Frank on this one.
But that's not what he's arguing. He's just yelling. We
Yeah.
got the booth. There's no actual discussion. That's the beauty of it. It's just skipping
I didn't
steps
take
in
a
an actual
subway
discussion. Yeah.
to not sit in a booth. I didn't take a subway to sit in a drafty restaurant. It's like check, draw,
Which shows you neither wants to be there either.
Yeah.
Is what is the subtext there, right?
And then George goes, "I think I don't have any questions about my childhood. Actually,
Yeah.
I know exactly what's happening." What's your favorite Frank scene, Johnny?
It's definitely from an episode I know we're gonna get to, and it's the. I mean, my favorite episode is the Del Boca Vista one because you get to see where George's like petty, spiteful worldview comes from. In
They
a
don't
lot of
want
ways.
us there, so we're moving.
Yeah, I can I play that clip actually because
Yeah, go for
I
it.
have that, and just it's same thing. Listen to the escalation here.
You what?
Why, you thinking of moving?
No, not really.
Because if you are, you shouldn't. There's nothing.
Sorry, let me set up the clip a little bit. They just the Seinfeld's got a place in a community, Del Boca Vista, we're all familiar with, and
You said
they
that
just
on the
happen-
first take. Well done.
Yeah,
Most people
Del
go Del
Vista,
Besta
Del Vica
Boca.
Bosta,
Del
Del Voca Vista. No, and it's very similar to the whole Tuscany villa in Tuscany scene in another episode. They're like, oh, are you thinking of moving there? Because you can't. There's nothing available. The whole place. There's nothing.
Yeah,
available.
it's exactly that same setup. It's like, wait a second.
Looked solid.
You're a little bit
Book
too
solid. How'd you get there? Got
aggressive about saying it's not available. I didn't even say I was interested yet. Like,
Yeah,
and
but
I'm
that's
only
a-
interested now because you don't
yeah.
want me to.
But
be,
that's a
'cause there
relatable
must
thing.
be-
There's definitely
you know.
people who act like that,
see,
right?
this
But
one.
so George is trying to get them to move. So he brings the brochure over, and they're just making conversation. They're the normal ones at the beginning of this. It's like, oh yeah, we saw the brochure. What a nice place you're moving to. But they've said they're not interested in moving to Florida. But with that in mind, they have no interest in moving there. And watch how fast this escalates.
You what?
Why, you thinking of moving?
No, not really.
Because if you are, you shouldn't. There's nothing available in that development.
Are you telling me there's not one condo available in all of Del Boca Vista?
That's right. They went like hotcakes.
How'd you get yours?
Got lucky.
Are you trying to keep us out of Del Boca Vista?
I know this doesn't seem like work to any of you. If you could perhaps conduct the psychopath convention down the hall, I could just get a little personal.
So yeah, that's Jerry at the end being like, this is not new to me either or shocking.
Also, if Morty Seinfeld did want to keep them out of there, he chose the most, like, it'd be like me making a move in chess and being like, oh, look, I'm threatening your queen, like trying to bait you, and you're like, all right, that's an obvious tell. Like,
But to anybody, because to anybody else, they'd be like, wow, they clearly don't want us there. That'd be really awkward if we moved somewhere where not only do we not know anybody, but we are on a negative footing. We know,
and we
somebody
didn't even
that
want to move in
we
the first
don't
place
get along with,
necessarily.
right? So like that's like if somebody did that, it's a little over the top on Morty's side. But if he really doesn't want to live near him, like, okay, I got the message. You don't want me in your community. Like, go screw yourself. I'll go find somewhere better with better golf carts or golf courses or whatever you're into. But that's the wrong approach to take with a Costanza. Totally wrong approach.
But don't you feel like they're just ahead of... what I really appreciate about how the Costanzas are written is that I feel like they're just ahead of the curve in terms of where the psychopath convention winds up going. Because if you look at the other characters in Seinfeld, they similarly go through a process where they will have the menial conversations and sort of put up the facade of, oh, that's awkward, I could never do that. But then by season 8 or 9 or whatever, George is driving out all the way to the Hamptons for a lie that he
Yeah.
has a house with his dead fiance's parents, who he's pretty much responsible for killing. So that seems to me on sort of the way, on the path towards.
And he's only
I'll
in his
move to-
40s.
Exactly, right. So by the time he's his dad's age, I'll move to Florida out of spite.
Yeah.
What else do they have? If you've lived
Right.
a meaningless life, then
Right.
like you do things out of spite. Like
You might as well move to Florida out of
I mean,
spite.
fast
Why not
forward
at
to
that
Curb
point?
Your Enthusiasm. Larry David in season, I think 8, end of season 8.
Yeah.
He tells that guy to get out of a charity dinner. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to be in New York."
Yeah.
And then the guy like offers him an apartment. 'Cause
Yeah.
You could tell the guy's like, "I don't believe you, and
Yeah.
I'm going to make you move to New York
Yeah.
to uphold this lie." And
then
Larry
he-
goes,
Right.
"I'll do it."
And then he does it again and winds up in Paris. It just
Yeah.
keeps upping the
Yeah.
geographic
Well, because it worked the
ante.
last time. It did. He did it last time, and it worked out. So why would he? Like, it worked out for him. So why would he be like, "Oh, I can't fall into that
yeah, if
trap
you
again"?
consi-
He's like, "No, I'll just see if
If
I
you
can get
consider
away with
working
it."
out having to move across a continent,
And the guy was
Larry
like,
doesn't care. He's not really attached to anything, anyways.
right?
in that Curb episode, the guy was like, "So if I drive past your house, you won't be there because you'll be in New York, right?"
Yeah.
He's like, I shouldn't see you get in the paper in the morning or anything like that." And
Yeah.
Larry's like, "Oh shit, this guy means business."
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. This guy wants me at the charity event. Yeah, yeah. That's a very sort of Seinfeldian vibe too, where you see it in original Seinfeld. Too.
Yeah, and it
But
happened to
if I
George
was-
too. Didn't he go to Paris? Like
Yeah.
instead of well, he didn't want to go to Paris with the kid, so he tries
Yeah.
to get the Seinfelds to bring a
Right.
postcard or some shit. I
And
don't
he
know. I
winds
forget.
up
But if I
actually
was-
taking the kid to Paris.
Yeah.
If I was as rich as Larry David and I really didn't want to go to your charity event, I would totally do that. Just go live somewhere else for a couple of months to get out of something. If I wasn't comfortable saying no to because of the public shaming it would cause me, I would just be like, "Yeah, sorry, I'll be in."
Yeah,
and
but
pick a
if you
place
were as-
better than New York, though.
But if you were as rich as Larry David, you could also just say, "Yeah, look, I'm really not comfortable.
I'll just write a check.
Yeah, here's a check, whatever."
No,
And-
he'll go spend that same amount avoiding it.
Right.
Yeah, you're
Well,
right.
Larry David, no, Larry
Spend more.
Larry David thinks he won't have to because the guy won't call his bluff, but then the guy does, and then he has to.
Right.
So he genies himself.
Yeah, they use that calling your bluff like
Yes.
all the time in Seinfeld and Curb.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So Frank and George both do that.
Yeah.
No surprise.
Well, there's a lot of Larry and George, obviously, and therefore by extension, a lot of Larry even and Frank, right? Like I think there's a parallel there between how you see sometimes Frank act and how you see Larry act in Curb, even, right?
Totally.
Well,
I
they're
mean,
the
I think
old
Larry's like a
versions of
blend of
George.
a few of the characters,
Yeah.
especially
But
Jerry and George.
they're both older versions of George. One plays the character George's father, and one plays old Larry David, who George is based off of. So it does make sense that they'd have a lot.
Yeah.
All right, this is my favorite Frank Estelle moment because it kind of breaks their little fourth wall, whatever that might be. This is when George was selling Frank's clothes.
Well, hold on.
yeah.
Can I just play the next Del Boca clip real quick?
Oh yeah.
Before we jump episodes. All right. So this is when we find out they're going to move out. That was the scene that just happened. The next that we listened to last, them arguing and Jerry trying to kick them out. This is the next time we see Frank with George.
Oh, what do you need this cold weather for?
Has nothing to do with weather. It's because of the Seinfeld.
Oh yeah, he just said they're moving.
Yeah.
What do you mean? They don't want us there, so we're going.
We're moving right into Del Boca Vista.
So you're moving there for spite? Absolutely.
No one tells Frank Costanza what to do.
That's right!
George is down. Why not? His parents are leaving.
So they both make this like guttural like gotcha sound, and it's the only time in the show I can really ever think of Frank and George really bonding over something.
Right.
That's going to be my big.
That's an interesting point.
That
Out of
was research
psychotic
for this.
spite.
Yes, out of research for this episode, that was my big takeaway. That is where they are the most on the same page. He's moving out of spite. George doesn't care that it's out of spite because he's just trying to get rid of them and get them out of his life and down to Florida. And so they're both just doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. And they're both like, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they're
that's a
full
great
agreement
point.
about
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
And it's just it's that might be my favorite Frank Costanza moment, but
Wait,
Yeah.
but also don't forget this on the Del Boca Vista front. This message
might as
he
well.
leaves.
Yeah.
This is Frank Costanza.
What do you want?
You think you can keep us out of Florida? We're moving in lock, stock, and barrel. We're going to be in the pool. We're going to be in the clubhouse. We're going to be all over that shuffleboard court. And I dare you to keep me out.
By the way, that little music you hear in the background, I think the YouTube thing I stole this from had background music. So
Yeah, my clip was
that's
my
not
clip was a lot better.
Seinfeld original background music, like the free royalty free YouTube background music.
But that is one of my favorite Frank Costanza moments, just because what is the motivation to call Morty Seinfeld at that point?
Well,
Oh,
there's no
just
reason.
tell him you're screwed.
I know.
There's no
It's
reason to
it's
move out
so
of
psychotic.
spite. There's no reason to move there out of spite if they don't know you're not. If they don't know you're going, they have to know you're going there to spite them.
But it's,
Well, even better would be to just show up and see him at the pool,
Right.
when
Or-
it's too late to pull.
or
him.
no,
you could
that's
just
what the
call him and
psych-
say that and not actually do it, not actually move.
But that's the psychosis of Frank. He wants Morty to not, oh yeah, we just thought it was nice and like passive aggressive. He wants him to know, no, I'm doing it to spite you. I want
because
to
of what you clearly
you-
did to me.
Yeah,
Right.
you told me it was going to ruin your time, and now I'm going to do it to ruin your time.
They don't want
your
us
good
there.
time.
That's why we're going.
But and also in
It's
that
such a
episode,
great-
as easily as they move down, they wind up leaving. They're over it. They're
'Cause
over
it was just a spite move. They were not that into it.
right.
It's winter in New
doesn't
York.
he-
You might as well move to
Doesn't
Florida
he
for
see
spite
Jerry
for a few
sleeping in
months.
his car and thinks it's a homeless person?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because Jerry's
right.
dealing with the Cadillac situation.
Yeah,
or is that a
that's the Cadillac. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he just says, "All right, that's it. We're going back to Queens," and then they just go. That's
Right.
it. That's the end of that storyline.
Meanwhile, Jerry's calling them psychotic, and obviously they are psychotic. But in the he wants to find a place in Tuscany.
Mm.
Now Jerry doesn't go as far as to go to Tuscany. Oh no, he does.
No, he does.
So yeah, they're all psychotic.
But in Jerry's situation, he didn't do it out of spite. He inquired out of spite and got elbowed
That's what
by
I mean.
the mob.
His inquiry was out of spite because he's like,
Yes.
why does the maestro not want me there?
Yes, he didn't go act, and that's the whole irony of it.
There's
He-
nothing available.
He goes to see Chichio about the
and
apartment.
Chichio has an apartment.
And
This
Chichio
one.
says, "See, this apartment." He goes, "No, I'm not actually looking for an apartment. I was just wondering."
Yeah.
he's at the inquiry level. He's
$1,200
not-
or whatever.
Yeah, he's not quite at the full Frank level yet. But that's my point. They're getting there. They're progressing
because they're
to
in their
that-
late 30s.
Yeah,
Early 40s
They're
tops.
progressing to that level of psychosis. For
Yeah.
sure. But that's another one of my favorite conversations about the Costanzas is when Morty and Helen, they are talking to Jerry and they say, "We don't really care for the Costanzas." And Jerry's shocked and he says, "No, I just didn't know that you could detect abnormal behavior amongst your own kind."
Right.
He just assumed that they were all just as crazy. And the Seinfelds are like, no, the Costanzas are the crazy ones to them.
Even among old people,
Yes.
there's delineations between
Yes,
crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, when you're in when you're in Del Boca Vista or wherever the old, is that where Morty and Helen live?
Yeah. Del Boca Vista.
When you're there and Jerry's visiting, you're like, Jesus Christ, this community is
Right.
psychotic.
Yeah.
But
it's still psychotic.
Estelle and Frank are on a different level.
Yeah, they're on
because
a
they're
different
willing to
playing
go
field.
into a restaurant and just yell.
Right.
Whereas the other people hold up a facade of like politeness, and then behind the scenes they do psychotic
Well,
stuff.
Helen and Morty will bicker maybe in a restaurant, very low sort of volume. Right?
yeah, about the tip or something.
Right. Yeah. They'll kind of
normal
just go back and
normal
forth.
crazy parent behavior. Yeah.
Right. Whereas the Costanzas will just openly yell.
Well, here's a question for you guys about about Frank Costanza that I've been wondering, and I did a little research and I found out about. Do you think is Frank Costanza a New York? Because we know that character, right? Is he an Italian New York Italian American New Yorker or a Jewish American New Yorker?
He's Italian.
I think Italian.
He
Yeah,
says
but there's
he's-
episodes where he's cooking like knishes and eating kasha in bed. Like, remember he's cooking for the
Offers it
Jewish
to
thing?
George. Yeah.
Like they do very like he says like there's a lot of that because I mean I think Larry and Jerry I don't know if Jerry's Jewish but Larry David is and like so when they're writing based on the same person and like that hyperbolic
I think
couple
maybe
that
he was
they're based
designed
off
to
of,
be.
we all know.
No, I think I
It's-
saw an interview where either Larry or George said that they never, or at least early on, they didn't.
It's never
have-
revealed. That's what
Well,
I'm asking.
he said
you guys.
early. Well, it is revealed.
He does sell Christian relics.
No, Frank says
He did.
in an episode to Elaine that he was born in Tuscany. That the episode with the maestro where he's trying to get the picture from the maestro. He says
Oh
that
yeah,
Oh,
the
he was a
storefront
boy
does
in the
say
village, yeah.
Costanza
he,
in the background.
he could never run for president.
he could still be Jewish.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I think George or Larry or somebody said that early on, at least, they kind of just framed him as you couldn't really tell. Like they didn't know.
Yeah.
They just knew that he was kind of that Italian New York or Jewish New Yorker type.
Loud voice yelling
Yeah.
all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't cook because he had a scarring event in the war.
That might be
That
my favorite
classic stereotype.
Frank Costanza episode. Yeah.
That's probably one of the when he died, the night he died. Last week, whatever. We watched that episode as a tribute. The Fatigues. Yeah,
I think we did too.
We did.
Yeah.
Fatigues, yeah.
Tommy's
I
here,
thought
by
if
the
I
way.
could
Welcome,
season
Tommy.
it.
Hello.
You've been
I
quiet.
thought
You
if
look
I-
tired.
I am.
Tommy,
I'm very
I think
tired.
it's-
Tommy had
being
5
very
slices
distraught.
of pizza.
Tommy's also the only one of us
I
who
was going to
actually.
say I was distraught about his death, but okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the 5 slices of pizza.
okay.
Yeah.
but
Well, between
yeah, so
distraught and pizza.
Yeah, somewhere on that
It's a
sliding
happy
scale.
balance, yeah.
yeah, so Jerry Stiller said in an interview a few years ago before he passed that like it was never clear to him either which it was because he would ask and they're like, just kind of both. So he said when people asked, he would tell them they were a Jewish family in a witness protection program, which really does explain like Frank Costanza's heightened level of anxiety at any
If
given
he's always
time.
on guard, yeah.
Because who knows, maybe he pissed off like the Kansas City Mafia, so they moved him to Queens or something, and he's just always on edge and freaking out about it.
I thought he was just on edge from the war,
I thought
fighting 103rd,
I thought he was. I thought he was actually a spy or something.
slinging hash for the fighting 103rd.
Because wasn't he going to Korea selling Christian relics? That's not
After
a
the
real
war,
job.
yeah, that's some shadiness.
he even
right?
met the Kim Sung Hyun, whatever.
What was that?
Kim Sung.
Try
Moon.
again, Luke. What
Kim
was that?
Sung Moon.
Nope.
Hell of a nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably my favorite episode. Is
That's a great one.
With that, we did this in our original Seinfeld episode, like
Stop
episode
short.
27. Just we analyzed this scene where everything gets quiet. You hear the whiskey bottle open.
I love that.
You
scene.
hear the bottle go down on the table. You hear the liquid pour in, and for a second, you think this is going to be deep.
Yeah, you do. For a second, you're like, "Oh shit, we're about to get real."
And
with
you don't
George-
remember Frank was a
Costanza.
cook, right? You think like he was in the war. I forget the details. And then he just says like I was slinging hash for the one fighting 103rd.
And oh yeah, we did talk about this in
Yeah.
our go back to our original Seinfeld episode.
And in that scene, we pointed out, I think, realized in real time during the recording of that episode that Frank in his memory is just Frank in like a silly hat and like green fatigues.
He's still
They didn't. They didn't try. Yeah, there's no de-aging Scorsese technology going into it or anything.
No.
But I think the point was in
Like
Frank's
the Irish
memory, he
thing.
didn't see himself as a young man. He just saw himself as Frank now because his memory is so fucking stupid.
right. Because
Is that how he really cooked?
If I
Just,
could
like,
just get the
slapping meat?
seasoning just
slapping
right,
meat
yeah.
with seasoning? Yeah. Yeah. I love
And then
how
you don't
he
test
overseasons
meat
it.
by sticking your finger at the raw meat and just licking your finger.
or sticking your finger on the seasoning and tasting
Yeah.
the
Of-
seasoning.
it tastes like chili powder. Interesting. Like, of course.
Men were keeling over all around me
Oh, he went home all right.
with a crater in his colon the size of a cutlet.
So that's probably the most amazing Frank. Come on, Frank. 40 Jewish singles need you.
I that's one of those scenes that I still laugh out loud when I watch.
I think we were watching it together. So, Johnny, the
Yeah.
question is aimed at you. Who was originally supposed to put on that dinner with the Jewish singles
Oh yeah.
that Kramer took it over for?
It wasn't Bob Sacamana. It was
No.
the other guy. It's not FDR.
If you need a hint,
Who
I'll
is it?
tell you another person who
Wasn't
it's
FDR.
not. And that might help you narrow it down.
Yeah, who's the other person?
It's not Jay Riemenschneider, Kramer's friend who eats horse meat. Someone
I
else.
assumed
He gets
it
it
was
from his butcher.
Riemenschneider. That sounds kind of Jewish, you know. Who was supposed to? Lomez?
Yeah. But why
Yeah.
couldn't he do it?
Oh,
Lomez
that's-
couldn't do it.
That's
Now,
the
this is a
question.
deep level Seinfeld
Yeah.
trivia.
Because it's such a stupid explanation. It doesn't, and in fact, you should know why this is a stupid explanation, Johnny. Because I caught it right away, and Luke was kind of like, "What? Why is that a stupid explanation?"
If you got nothing, you're not going to get it.
It has to do. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with where we grew up.
Oh. Lomez couldn't do it. He had to, I can like hear this. I can see Kramer saying it. I just can't remember the goddamn line.
And
I've
Kramer's
seen
little
that.
like say something psychotic fast and click after it. Like
yeah,
that's okay.
they just get a bunch.
Lopez
out of the
can't do
way.
it. He's in the Everglades.
He's in the Everglades. That is it.
And you get why that's so stupid, right?
It's not like he's in the Rockies like skiing. Like
because you don't just go to the Everglades. That doesn't make any sense.
you
Well, if you're
spend
Lopez.
one day there, right? Maybe take a fan boat, maybe?
I mean, it's a swamp.
do-
You have to fly there, then you have to go to the
Yeah.
swamp, and then you have to spend time
in the swamp.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, you
what
don't
is he
stay there
doing?
for a week.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I don't
Unless
know
you're
why you would
fishing or
ever
something.
go to the Everglades unless you're going to, like, fish or, like, watch crocodiles or hunt pythons. Or
And I don't
something.
think Lomez does that, but how would I know?
We don't know enough about Lomez. That's the problem.
But Kramer to the rescue is really concerned about 40 Jewish singles.
Is that how many it is?
I forget the number. It might be 60. I don't know.
Regardless.
I think it's the same episode. I'm trying to... The one we were talking about before where the Seinfelds are going to Paris, and George is up in the attic selling Frank's, like, cabana wear.
Oh, yeah. I love those clothes.
In this scene, and this might be my favorite Frank and Estelle moment, Estelle asked George, like, what were you doing in the attic? I heard you crawling around. He goes, what? I wasn't in the attic. Because George, just like Larry David, instead of telling the truth in any amount, default, just lie.
Well, yeah, he's
lie.
He's pretending that his parents are dead to sell their summer clothes.
Fair enough.
To try to
It
get,
won't
like,
look
an
good
extra
if he
20
told the full
bucks,
truth.
Yeah, he
but
might as well keep lying at this
He could have
point.
said, oh, I'm desperate for money, so I sold some of the clothes I found up there.
Yeah.
Whatever. Whatever. That part's whatever. So George, as a lie, says maybe it was a mouse. And that's what's going on in this scene. Hopefully it's no background
I
music.
got all this paella.
I admire Morty and Helen going to France. We should take a trip. Maybe a cruise.
Yes, a cruise. A long cruise.
Just the two of us.
Overselling it. Like,
Georgie, what were you doing poking around the attic last night?
I wasn't in the attic.
I heard noise.
Maybe it was a mouse.
Okay, that's it. We're moving.
What?
I will not tolerate infestation.
You haven't even seen one.
Don't you understand? The very thought, the very idea.
here's my favorite line coming
I'll
up.
never be comfortable again.
All right, Frank, that's enough.
That's like a wall breaking. Like, normally they do that performative back and forth yelling.
Yeah.
And she's just like, Frank, enough. It's
Yeah.
morning. We'll fight more later.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
what,
haven't had my coffee yet.
that's what's funny. The conversation, because another conversation I really like that kind of lasts, because I like the conversations where they sometimes don't escalate for that reason, to see how, oh God, this is how they even interact at a normal level. And one that comes to mind is when George is asking about their family history, and he's talking about the people who have died in Aunt Baby, who died very young.
What was their bosom like?
Yeah, well, and so Estelle asks Frank, how old would Aunt Baby be if she were alive today? And Frank just goes, she never would have made it.
Yeah, that's not anything.
Like, that's the best. And George just like kind of shakes his head. Well,
She was
okay.
just asking a mathematical question.
right. He couldn't handle it.
An actual answerable question.
Not only would she
opinion
never
So
have made it, she
answerable.
didn't.
She never would have made it.
And then
it's so
isn't
good.
that when George follows up with the bosom question?
You want to know if your grandmother was bosomy? Where do you get your genes from? That's what I like to know.
Yeah. It wouldn't kill you to go in knowing something. By the way, have you guys seen the behind the scenes like explanation for why he talks in that scattered percussive
Frank?
kind of way?
I'm
Del
guessing
Boca
he
Vista?
needed cue cards or something, or had a
Well,
stroke.
so he
What
had
is
such a problem memorizing lines, and he would always forget it, that it started coming out in that like he scattered kind of chunky way, and they actually ended up liking it.
Really?
Yeah.
But
I
was
mean,
he-
he couldn't help but do it.
But he was an actor, wasn't he? Before that?
Yeah, but he was getting old. Like, so I don't know. What is your opinion? I know you don't know him as a person, but of Jason Alexander. What's your instinct tell you? Not as the actor George, but as an actual human being, Jason Alexander.
What do you mean?
what's
Because
the line
every
again?
interview I've seen him in, my instinct tells me this guy's an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
But I
for
can't
sure.
tell if it's just because I watched Curb and he wrote a book called Acting Without Acting.
Well, what's funny is if you watch interviews about Jason Alexander on Curb, they say that that's because the way he acts in Curb is how I imagine he is in real life.
Yes,
But
yes.
but apparently that is an act. But
He acts like that in the interviews for
that's
Seinfeld.
what I mean. So it seems like it's actually based on a kernel of truth, and they're probably
Yeah.
just dialing it up.
Dialing it up, but like he
yeah.
was talking about the Frank Costanza talking in actually how I just talked, right? Just like
Yeah.
Del Boca Vista, like the words are struggling, And just even the way he said it, like he could have said it in a funny way, and he said it in like a, us Juilliard trained actors, don't do that, but blah blah blah.
Right.
I mean, he was complimenting him, but with like the backhand of like he can't memorize his lines. It just felt a little cunty.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten that vibe from interviews I've seen with him. We should have him on the podcast.
You think, Tommy, you want to reach out to his lawyer?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Yeah.
To answer your question, Luke, when I see Jason Alexander, I think of a short, stocky, slow-witted bald man. I just wanted to shoehorn that in there.
Fair enough. Right.
Did you just come up with that yourself?
That's a really good line.
That's from the show.
No, I know. I'm
We're
kidding.
trolling you.
Oh. I don't know. For a second, I thought I out Seinfeld you. I got really excited.
No.
It's the Andrea Doria episode.
John, we're
acting without acting. Yeah. And yet it's all acting.
Well, mostly.
So all the time, whenever I'm like doing anything, cooking dinner, right? I'll be like, Yanka, my fiance might be like, current fiance might be like, how'd you make those muffins? I'll be like, the key is it's baking without baking. It's effortless. And then she'll go, and yet it's all baking.
Yeah.
Like that's a line from Curb. When Jason Alexander writes his book called Acting Without Acting.
Oh, it's more of a pamphlet, really.
I'll read it with dinner.
But yeah, so I got more clips though.
Oh yeah, go for it.
But another line, just in terms of lines that we say, me and Tommy will say this all the time. Well, it sucks.
Yeah. So do you have that clip by chance, Johnny?
I don't have that one.
That clip. I'll just say. I mean, I have it.
That's a good one.
Should I just play it?
Yeah,
real
that's
quick?
a good one.
Sure.
So give the follow up where like it's the fatigues episode where Costanza's not cooking.
Yeah, that's where he sort of cracks. He overcomes his wartime trauma and decides to get back. Well, we think he overcomes his wartime trauma,
whatever that means.
And decides to get back into cooking.
So he's this is going to start with him saying, "Well, it sucks." Estelle just gave him like a fried egg or something or an omelet. I don't know.
It's dry.
And yeah, he's finally just had it. And
How she always makes it.
Yeah.
Well, it sucks.
What did you say?
Your meatloaf is mushy, your salmon croquettes are oily, and your eggplant parmesan is a disgrace to this house.
Well, that's too bad, because I'm the only one who cooks around here.
Not anymore. Give me that spatula. I'm back, baby.
Like even his movements have that what would you call it? Like episodic, like choppiness. That's the perfect word. Yeah. It's like his lines and his motions are like he's a radio station that's not quite coming in clearly.
Yeah.
Did the sound pads on the wall just fall off?
Yeah.
I thought the corner of my eye saw something, and I was like,
I think we're too loud. The sound pads are coming off the wall. We got to upgrade the studio, folks.
Donate on Patreon and we'll upgrade the studio.
Please, I will buy more sound pads if you donate on Patreon, for sure.
What's your next clip that you had, Johnny?
I only have two left, so I'm going to start with I think my favorite, and then we'll go into what I think is most iconic, and then I'm done with clips.
Okay.
This is George is trying to find a new job. He's unemployed, I think, and just moved back in with his parents. They go out to dinner, and his mom's trying to have a real conversation with him and convince him to take the civil service exam, become a postman, and get a job, a steady job. And Frank has his own conversation with himself, but he thinks he's talking with George, who's not like really participating at all. But it's just, I don't know. Like, I think everyone's had this happen. Like, if you talk to an old couple that's been married long enough, where they're not interested in the other half of the couple's conversation, so they're going to have their own with you. Yeah. And that's what's happening to George here. So, all right, let's begin. Wait, where is it?
It's like they expect each ear of yours will hear the person. Like, yeah, I've had that happen.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't listen to each other anymore, so this doesn't phase us, really.
Yeah, this is just, normal day.
Right.
Normal day's procedure.
Okay, here we go.
Silver dollar?
Yes, I've seen a... Jerry, it's Frankenstein.
Seen a silver dollar?
Yes, I've seen a silver dollar.
Why don't you want to take a civil service test?
To do what? Work in the post office? Is that what you want me to do?
Would you believe when I was 18, I had a silver dollar collection?
So that, like, the way he goes, that silver dollar collection, that halting way, it might have been because he forgot the line, but it's hilarious.
Well, if you watch the outtake from that scene, he missed it like 3-4 times. So I think that's totally what happened.
But even when he doesn't know the line, he's still he's because I think he was like a stage comedian, a stand-up, so he still has comedic timing, even if he isn't saying the right thing. He's able to say it.
What I found so
You can't
compelling,
teach that, yeah.
which makes it clear that he's
There's
a great
more to this
actor,
clip, but go ahead.
is when you have a limitation that gets put upon you, like as an artist of any kind, you can either start sucking or you can work with it and come up with a new shtick.
Yeah.
Like if you're a musician and you get like a bad injury, you have to change something and figure out a new way to play despite that injury.
Well, that's like if you go
Like
and
the
you
one-armed
watch
drummer.
that one episode with that other guy who originally played Frank. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's really not
so
good.
bad.
Now, they didn't go so far in the Larry David backstage interview. He did not say they fired him or they didn't like him. In fact, he purposely said, I forget why we let him go. Like there was something scheduling. I forget the details.
Regardless, it's bad.
It's so clear that he just
the guy
didn't
probably
bring anything
showed
to
up.
the role.
There's no energy.
He
to
probably
the
showed
role,
up and did exactly what was asked of him, and they're like, "Oh, like we didn't write a good enough character. Like we needed Jerry Stiller or someone to make it their own to really inhabit the role. We can't just have a guy show up and read the lines."
And then Estelle said when Frank started yelling, she realized her character could be better if she was always trying to be prissy and proper, but then would like lose her temper anyways.
Yeah.
Because she was supposed to be like the overbearing like yeller.
Yeah, they were so good at playing off each other.
But she's always
Right.
like playing with her hands, like, you know, that very like 1950s housewife thing, like, you know, just being small. And then like she'll just lose her temper and start screaming, right? Like that role, they each allowed each other to find the perfect character.
Okay, well, there's more to this, so here we go.
I don't understand. You get job security, you get a paycheck every week.
I'm a college graduate. You want me to be a mailman? You know, I couldn't bring myself to spend one of these. I got some.
He's still talking about the coins. Like the fact that the conversation is talking about like a big thing, George's possible career path, what he's willing to do if he can. You know what? I could never bring myself to spend money.
I mean, I understand why Frank's not interested because he tried to get George a job with his Sid Farkas, his bra salesman friend.
He tried, and
and George just ruined it. So
fantastically, failed fantastically. Okay, here we go.
Kind of a phobia. Want me to be a mailman? You know, I couldn't bring myself to spend one of these. I got some kind of a phobia.
So what are you gonna do?
I don't know. I do know that I have some kind of a talent, something to offer. I just don't know what it is yet. I bet that collection would be worth a lot of money today. Oh, my God. I don't like this waiter.
he's flicking his hand up in the air.
He's clicking. Yeah, snap.
He sees us. Doesn't want to come over.
See, that's the other classic old people thing where you start making enemies out of anybody on a dime. Like right away, like if the waiter's not, look at him, look, he sees us. It's like, no, the waiter's not messing with you. They're busy working their job as a waiter. Like they make like those kind of like old people vibes where they make everything about them and like they're the center of the world and anything that's not going according to their predetermined plan is like just like they start the simmer turns into a boil.
Yeah.
You mean
know
how
what I mean?
Morty Seinfeld convinced himself that the doctors must have stolen his wallet?
My
at the
wallet's
doctor's
right.
office?
Whatever
Like,
happened to that
doctor's
wallet?
office
Where
is
was it?
stealing
They found
wallets
it at
with-
the end of the season.
It was in the couch.
It was in the couch. Jerry's
Oh, of
couch.
course.
That's a good trivia question. Where's the wallet?
Yeah, I didn't know it.
Yeah, that's a good one. But even that scene that you just played, Johnny, one of the reasons why I love that scene comes, I mean, a lot of it comes back to the brilliance of the writing, I think, where the way it's set up, both visually and thematically, you have George stuck in the middle between them, like you were saying with the two ears, and his mom offering or trying to at least have a conversation that you would have with somebody about, okay, let's try to figure out your career path. George doing his thing, and then his dad, and it goes between them, right? It starts with the mom, goes to George, and then goes to the dad. It cycles through, and when it gets to Frank, he offers no guidance whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because he's stuck in this silver dollar just tangent of whatever, and then it goes
Well, he's
back
not
to his
there.
cell.
Which it's great because George has done that exact thing, like about toilets or like salt shakers, while
Sure.
he's getting dumped by a woman.
Sure.
Like he's so unaware that this person is unhappy, in
Or
the
while he's
relationship.
trying to impress a woman.
And yeah, or they're like actively leaving him, and he's like, "Huh? Come again? What?" Like he almost misses it. Like that's happened to him several times throughout the show.
Yeah,
you see
for
where
sure.
that comes from now. Yeah,
Well, it's that classic, like, I don't know if this is like a dad energy thing. It's sort of like I'm bored with all of this.
Yeah.
Like, I've been to a restaurant with my wife 10,000 times. I'm
Hundreds
over
of
it.
times, thousands.
Exactly. And like, so Frank is just like pausing between thoughts. He's not even talking to them. You know what I mean? He's not like trying to
Yeah,
strike
not
up
really.
a conversation about a silver dollar. He's just trying to eat up the time until he dies.
Wow, too soon, bro.
Oh, wow. I forgot what episode. I thought we were
Jesus.
just having a Seinfeld episode. Sorry.
And that's what he
Bryce.
would have wanted, I'm sure.
What would Frank's funeral be like if that happened in the show?
Well, so that's an interesting question because in the unofficial Seinfeld reunion on Curb, they bring back Estelle, but they don't bring back Frank, and they mention one of the last scenes in the reunion episode is when George is getting back together with his ex-wife Amanda. He says, "Oh, I just remembered. I got to call my mother in Florida. The news. This might finally be the news that kills her." So they're kind of inadvertently saying that Frank had died and she moved down to Florida
because they couldn't get him. They're like, I guess he died.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what happened with that. Why Jerry Stiller didn't
he might
come
have
back.
just been, he might have been declining health for a while now. Who knows?
But she actually came back. She's in the episode of the table read.
Yeah,
she is. Yeah,
She doesn't make
maybe
it
she
into
needed the money though, and Jerry has Ben Stiller spending dodgeball money on him. You know,
That's true. Yeah,
or Meet the Fockers. He's got Meet the Fockers money to take care of his dad. He doesn't have to
that's
work
true.
anymore.
Yeah, that
He's
was
having
like
trouble remembering lines.
And
stuff,
ironically, now that I think about it, that's actually there's two things from the Curb Your Enthusiasm Seinfeld reunion that I was sort of not disappointed, but wanted more of. One was more actual scenes, just because I'm greedy.
Yeah.
I wanted to see more of because they had a script. There's an actual script of the episode.
They
I'm
just
pretty
didn't
sure.
flush it out totally,
right?
though.
And they
The scenes
referenced-
were like kind of like skeleton-y.
Exactly. I would have liked to have, just because I'm greedy, not because I think it's even a good idea. But then the other one was I really had wished that they had brought Jerry Stiller had wanted to, or was
Even
able
just
to.
like a quick scene that they
even at the table read, with Estelle,
Whatever.
just to see them
him
interacting
just-
again.
Even
would have
him
been-
just yelling, not as Frank, but just yelling on the phone to Larry about why he wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
in a very Frankish way. Like that would have been great.
Oh, that would have been amazing. See,
That
something
would have been
creative
perfect
like
with
that.
it.
Yeah,
It's possible his health just wasn't in the right place. Yeah.
No, again, but I'm saying that as a testament to how much he really meant to the show.
That must have been
to me.
some episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, she was.
But it wasn't like I think because I think a lot of the other characters either showed up or don't. Newman's there. I think Banya's maybe at the table read, but Putty never shows up. It was good to see or not see some of those characters, but I don't even notice it now.
Yeah.
But Frank is the one that I remember missing from that.
Well, would you agree? I don't know if there was ever a survey like this, but Frank would probably be a lot of people's favorite character
After the main four?
even before the four.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
he's just so uniquely.
Oh yeah, I think after and amazingly, the fact that we haven't, I don't think even mentioned Festivus is also a testament.
Well, yeah, because
to
that's
how
his-
amazing
That was
his
my next
character
clip.
is.
Actually,
Yeah.
that was my last clip.
Is
I have
that
it queued up?
Is that which clip?
It's
The
the
one
most
where he's telling
iconic
the
one.
story to Kramer?
No, that's a good one. I actually have the airing of grievances ready to go.
Yeah, can we
okay.
just play all of Festivus?
Yeah, we should just watch that episode. Do
Yeah.
like a Twitch
All right,
companion
folks,
thing.
join us in this Festivus airing.
Go to
No,
patreon.com and donate, and you'll hear the entire Festivus episode. Or go to hulu.com
If you
and
go
get
to
a membership.
hulu.com
Yeah.
after donating.
Put in code word thunk for nothing to happen.
Yeah. This reverse
I,
sponsorship is brought to you by Hulu.
We love the folks over at Hulu. They love us. We think.
We love them mostly for hosting Seinfeld. That's the main.
That's
reason.
true, yeah.
Yeah.
So people were saying, by the way, with the old Frank versus the new Frank, if you have DVD collection, it still has the old Frank, but all the streaming services and Hulu and whatever has the
new
reshot scene.
Frank.
No, it doesn't. Hulu has old original Frank.
Really?
Yeah, they don't have the new Frank, or they don't have Jerry Stiller.
Maybe the syndicated version.
I'll show you
for,
after
like,
we-
television.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll show you.
You know
Probably
what?
Like
I'm not sure if what season that's for.
Probably 4.
It's
maybe
possible.
5.
It's possible I watched that like on some
Probably
Turkish
4.
streaming website. So at some point we
That's a
crushed
sentence.
all of Seinfeld on Hulu, but I forget what season we started. So I'm not going to argue that because who cares?
I'm over.
I believe you. You watch way more Seinfeld. On Hulu.
So wait.
Oh yeah, I made that up. Why do you believe
Luke,
me?
if you have Hulu, why did you pull these clips from like a weird musical YouTube channel instead of just going to Hulu? Because that's what I did. Hulu
how do
has
you
really
pull the
good
clips
quality.
though?
Of course you didn't use Hulu, Johnny.
I mean, I'm asking why. Yeah, why
Do you just
didn't
take like a
Of
screen
course-
video as you're streaming Hulu?
No, of course I mean,
It's
I can
terrible
answer
audio.
hypotheticals off the air, but no, yeah, Joe's right. I used the DVDs I purchased.
Thank
it's
you.
Products of mine under fair
And now
use
we're
and
doing a
fair
fair
use.
use commentary on your
Anyways, let's listen to. So I picked the
because
airing of
they're really
grievances
listening to the Thunk Tank and trying to nail us down during the coronavirus pandemic.
And yet it's all funky.
Listen, comrade. I for one welcome our robot AI overlords monitoring our content. But let's just get back to the episode.
Just play the damn episode.
I picked the airings of grievance because he loses his place, and I've always wondered if it was the actor or the character there. So let's just, and we've been talking about that. So,
but it does summarize the vibe.
I'm gonna go back a second because there's just a great Kramer line that like relates to another episode that they rush past, and it's why I love this show.
Oh yeah.
So Kramer just showed up with the creepy dudes. Elaine gave the bagel store number 2 to Festivus dinner at the Costanzas, and they're about to sit down and begin the first airing. The airing of grievances, the first official part of Festivus, right?
Let's begin. Dr. Van Nostrand.
That's right.
Call back.
Welcome.
That's right, because
Well, it's a
in a-
continuity error that they had to address.
they had to address because Kramer, George's boss, came to the dinner to make sure it was real because George tried to defraud his company.
It's something we've said in
Christmas
previous
presents.
analyses.
Yeah,
I love that even if they have consistency problems, they at least address it.
Most of the time.
And
Yeah,
it's
most
just
of the time
that's
it's
all
true.
it takes is he just has Kruger is so like, well, I guess I'm going home. Like he's just so not like going to look past the surface layer. He's like, oh, you're Dr. Van Nostrand. Kramer just has to be like, well, yes, I am. Kramer might not even remember when he was that character.
Kramer
that
knows
time,
generally
but just
in his
knows
life
to say
he's
yes.
supposed to say yes.
Well,
Right?
he also
Right,
knows
so
that
he's
he's
just-
played that character in many situations. So when
Right.
somebody
I don't know
approaches
this
him,
guy, but yeah.
Is he the
he
doctor?
doesn't remember the
Is
I
he
don't
the
think he
Dr.
does.
Von Ostrand, the dermatologist, or is he the guy
Right.
from the clinic
But
trying to
also
get
they
Elaine Bennett's file?
But also they refer to. I think they refer
Bennis.
to Kramer.
It's Bennis, you jackass.
George even says later in the scene, Kramer, don't go. And Kruger doesn't bat an eyelash. That George just calls him. 'Cause
Kuga.
George introduced
Kuga.
him as Dr. Van Nostrand. And
Yeah.
then he's just like, Kramer, don't go.
Yeah.
And Kruger's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kruger's
he's
one of
much
the
more
most
fascinated.
enlightened beings in
Yeah.
the show. He's just so detached from everything.
Yeah.
Sure, Luke. He's much more fascinated with the whole Festivus thing.
Look, George,
unfolding
3
before
times,
him.
no hands.
Yeah.
All right, here.
Look
let's,
at me.
Let's listen to the actual airing agreements. It's just that exchange.
The ship
between
is steering
Kramer and
into
him.
just random Seinfeld,
Yeah.
as usual.
As usual, Seinfeld episodes go.
All right,
as
here
usual,
we go.
hangouts go.
All right, here we
Fair
go.
enough.
Newcomers. The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it. You, Kruger. My son tells me your company stinks.
Oh, God.
Why? You'll get yours in a minute. Kruger, you couldn't smooth a silk sheet if you had a hot date with a babe. I lost my train of thought.
And then it goes to the next scene. Of
I would
Jared's
say we
girlfriend
can't
coming
know,
in.
but my instinct tells me there was a line there. He forgot it and went with it, and they loved it.
Man, I would love
And it
to
was
ask
better, yeah.
Larry David that.
Yeah.
Or no, Larry wasn't writing by then. I guess Jerry.
Well, I'm sure Larry would know.
Why
They
would-
probably had dinner and talked about it.
Did
Yeah, it
they?
was
Why
season
would
9,
Larry
right,
know
Joe?
anything? Why would Larry know
What?
anything?
You're right. It's season 9.
Yeah, Larry wasn't around. But
I bet you if we call Larry
Larry
David
left,
right now,
so-
he would know.
I bet if you call Larry David right now, he will not. Pick
I'll
up the
do it.
phone.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, those are my clips though, because I mean everything from that episode is just gold, Jerry, gold.
Well, isn't that the
Coming
last
from-
big
from-
Frank Costanza episode? I think that's until
Yeah.
the finale. I think that's his last episode.
It's
that
his.
he's in.
It's his big.
It's his
shining
grand
moment.
finale.
He gets his own holiday. Like our dad has put Festivus poles up in the past when he has like a if we happen to have a like a tube of cardboard and tinfoil around that time of year, he's putting a Festivus pole up. I've seen him do it.
Yep.
So like that's a real holiday that's that's come up around this character. Yeah, that was his big opus. Whatever.
Would you agree that Elaine makes such an amazing face when not Jerry Stiller, when Frank Costanza is talking about his foot odor problem? The face that Elaine makes is just like, Jesus, what's happening?
Yeah.
Like, why am I teaming up with another Costanza to do some scheme?
And a crazier one, arguably. Yeah. Right.
Now, apparently, I was seeing that one of these behind the scenes interviews or whatever it was. He had to actually learn Korean. Like he repeated the Korean back to them.
Right.
Not a lot, just a few lines, right?
Yeah.
Like, because they said like, oh, look, she's back. She brought her dog with her or something. Like, and he repeated it back, you know? Mm-hmm. Funny enough, those Korean ladies just got mad that Elaine brought in a spy. And it was like forgotten that they were talking shit about all the customers.
Right.
Are we to just assume that's what's happening in nail salons?
Well, yeah, wouldn't you?
No, I mean, I feel like I could tell.
How? Well, that's what Elaine did. She could tell.
I do have one piece of evidence. Last time I got a haircut at the Turkish place down the street,
God,
I went in there, and the guy I normally get, who I have conversations with sometimes, was on a break. So I got this different guy. I was like, whatever, yeah, I'm not going to, wait 20 minutes. And I heard him whisper, like, he said, Çocuk, Türkçe biliyor, the boy knows Turkish. Like, as a quick thing. What would they say? I don't know. They probably generally say things and then like it's fine.
They probably are saying some pretty outrageous shit.
Not even about the customers necessarily, but maybe just like cursing about the TV show, like, oh, look at the tits on that one or something.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But I guess in a Korean nail salon where they're clearly in gossip mode. But also, why does Elaine care? Like, whatever. Don't get Frank involved.
Why do any of
I know that
care?
scream.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I want to know what that lady looked like when she was 20 years younger. Because she was pretty young in that. So that means when Frank was in the war, he was like, what, 20-something, 7? What age do you think Frank was in the Korean War?
It would have been like 40 years before.
So he would have been, like, he was in his 70s in Seinfeld, right?
No, probably like...
No, the Korean War was in the, 50s?
50s.
Yeah,
it was in the early 50s.
It took place in the 90s. Yeah, so it was about 40 years.
But like the actress that played that
20s.
Frank's old like affair, right?
Yeah.
She was pretty young still in the 90s in Seinfeld.
How do you know?
They showed her. We had scenes with her.
Yeah, but how old was she?
She didn't look like an old lady like Frank.
Because Frank looks like an old lady.
Because he has tits.
The man's ear.
I can't think of any other Frank moments, like classic ones that we missed. Any coming to mind, Tommy?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's probably just... I think he was a big part of what really helped that show ride to the stratosphere level that it got to,
Well, the idea that side characters can be amazing. They're not just there to be there.
Right.
To advance a plot with the main characters, but their whole worlds. Some of my favorite things are when Kramer and Frank are teamed up in something.
Oh, yeah. Kramer and Frank
like
team.
Two
fantastic,
insane people.
Yeah.
Feeding off of whatever you would call that fuel.
Well, they're different levels or they're almost different grades of fuel. One is kind of jet fuel and one is rocket fuel.
True.
But it's going to blow shit up.
Either way, Kramer genies Frank because like as soon as Festivus gets weird, Kramer's like, I'm out of here.
He just jumps ship.
Because that's the Kramer move. He encourages somebody to follow their dream that they always said I shouldn't do.
Right.
And then as soon as it's blowing up, he just goes, I never said to do that.
Nobody held a gun to your head.
Yeah, nobody held a gun to your head. You shouldn't do that. I'm out, I have no stake in this.
Yeah.
I didn't tell the Japanese guys to spend all their money. I just told them the hat was nice.
Right.
Like...
He's such a genie.
Do you have any other quotes, Tom?
Well, let me understand this. You got the hen. You got a rooster.
God, that's
you
right.
got the
Shit,
chicken.
that's-
Chicken goes
yes.
with the rooster. Who's having sex with the hen?
They're all chickens. The rooster has sex with all of them.
That's perverse.
That would have been a
Shit,
good
how
clip
did
to
we not
have.
find that clip?
Yeah, that's a good one, dude.
That's a damn good clip.
There's always more.
What's so beautiful about that scene is that the context is meeting these Susan's parents, right?
You stole the bread? They didn't put it out.
It's supposed to go well, right? They're trying to impress. Let's say, if not impress, have a good time because these two were they engaged yet?
Yeah.
That's because they got engaged. They had to have a dinner, right?
Frank says, or Estelle says, we're going to meet. They're your in-laws. And George goes, oh, God.
Right. Now, who's worse, in your opinion, Johnny? Is the Rosses more miserable, or is Frank and Estelle more miserable?
I think the Rosses are more miserable.
I agree.
But I think that George, inadvertently killing Susan, winds up bringing them closer together because they have somebody to hate.
It does, but they also lost their daughter, whereas Frank and Estelle still have their underwhelming son.
Okay, so who wins?
But actually, Frank and Estelle were brought together in one episode. Do you remember which one?
What do you mean by brought
The
together?
one where they just disliked George and they thought he was a loser and they were avoiding him. They were actually having fun going out together.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, they're going on dates and
we're cutting you
Chinese
loose.
food.
You're cutting me loose?
I love that rule, and it's not untrue. If there's no leftovers of Chinese food anywhere, it didn't happen.
Right, yeah.
Like we've been getting Chinese food or Thai food like during this quarantine, and the next morning when I wake up, it looks like some kind of murder scene happened. You know, there's just like chopsticks.
You're bad with Chinese food too.
Yeah,
remember
it's
the hotel
the easiest
room in
food. What are you talking?
Oh,
my God! All right, now we're getting into drunk tank.
Oh God, and we're not even drunk. Anyways,
all right. So
I thought you were
going to
tell that story. I don't have to.
Yeah, no.
I spilled Chinese food everywhere.
It has. Well, no, it just kept falling out of your mouth as you were.
I was laughing and trying to chew at the same
Yeah,
time.
You ruined an ironing board with Chinese food. Which, like,
Johnny,
I just remember. And
Luke,
it's like I needed the ironing board for my suit before the wedding, and like you were just. It was covered in grease. I was like, you ruined it not only for me, but the next person. Like,
Was that
I'm not gonna
Friday
go tell
night,
the front
though? I'm
desk.
pretty sure I was eating the Chinese food after the wedding.
It was the leftover
Chinese food.
Does it matter?
Maybe it was the leftover
You
Chinese
still
food.
ruined
I don't know.
Because I remember you left and Johnny, we were in our hotel room. Johnny was just like, what the fuck? How did Luke get Chinese? It's all over the floor.
Everywhere. The carpets, it was everywhere.
I think I
It was
was
on
at
the
that
walls.
like 1 a.m.
Like-
I think it was post wedding. I was at that 1 a.m.
Yeah,
like
leftover
I need to
Chinese
shove food in my mouth so that I wake up not feeling super hungover.
Yeah, that didn't
Like
work.
you got to get some, you got to get some
Yeah.
food, as they say. It absorbs the alcohol. Is that real?
You also held your hand in a bucket of ice.
No,
for
it doesn't
like 5
absorb
minutes.
Oh God.
It doesn't absorb the alcohol. It closes your pyloric valve, so the liquor stops shooting straight into your intestines and gets stopped in the stomach where it gets mixed with food.
So
If
it
you're
just
already,
slows the
if you're already
absorption.
wasted, though, eating food just is fun. It's delicious.
It's
it
true,
doesn't,
yeah.
It doesn't really get you less drunk. Drinking water, staying hydrated, and time are the only things you can really do.
That's true.
Or smoke some cigarettes, have a mint, and take a shit. That can help.
Shit in a mint. We got to do the league has some good moments. I think
Nah,
as a
that's
whole,
all right.
it's like kind of a shitty show.
I need to watch the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I missed at least 3 seasons.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I don't know anything about football, and there's that guy with the stolen valor 9/11 thing that makes it weird. So it's
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of shows. We'll do a different one.
Back to Frank though, what Tommy said, that I think that's my favorite baller Frank moment is taking bread back.
Yeah.
Like as psychotic as it is, it's a baller move.
Well, he has his principles, whatever those are, and he stands by them.
Oh shit, of course they don't think. Oh shit, we forgot to bring the bread in. It's here in the car. He's like, no, we brought it in, and then they're almost like, what? Those two don't seem to go together. He's like,
Yeah.
I brought it in. They didn't put it out.
Yeah.
And then they figure,
Why should I leave it?
Yeah.
Serenity now.
Who doesn't
Fuck, we
serve
forgot
cake?
Serenity now.
I sat there drinking coffee. What does she say?
We're sitting there like idiots without a piece of cake.
We're sitting there like idiots drinking coffee without cake.
Yeah, we forgot about Serenity Now too.
Oh,
there's
Serenity
so many,
Now, yeah.
Y'all come back now.
Yeah.
All right, any last words?
Oh, it's y'all come back real soon now. That's my Kramer quote. Oh, I guess I should end it with a Frank quote.
Should we play taps? Because Frank was in the military, slinging hash for the fighting one.
Now,
out
if
there.
you'll excuse me, your mother and I are going to make love.
That's right, yeah.
That's a great ending line, Tommy. He always comes in with the best ones.
All right, let's end it there.
No, I would,
Oh.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah?
I would just have to say, seriously though, what a great loss of a great comedic actor. So glad he was in that role. And, unfortunately, the next Seinfeld reunion is going to be less without him. So
Beautiful. Well said. Well
we'll miss
said.
you, Frank.
See you, Frank.
Farewell, buddy.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the Thunk Tank podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to help us out, please consider leaving a rating or a review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with people you think might like it. And if you really want to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/ThunkTankPodcast. We have links to this in the episode description and other places. And for as little as $1 an episode, you can help us keep the lights on. And you also get access to a very special Drunk Tank feed of episodes. So every few episodes, we'll have a few more beers and record an extra 20 to 30 minutes of extra thunky, silly whateverness. So there's a separate RSS link you can get from there, and if you put that into a podcast player, you'll get your own separate feed of only the Drunk Tanks. I think we have about 6 or 7 of them out already, and more to come. Thanks for listening, and stay funky.